Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, welcome to our Visioning Empathy Circle for the 1964 Canoas Road Retreat Center. I'm Edwin Rutsch, Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and we're doing a series of these visioning circles to talk about the just our vision for the space, and hopefully you saw how it worked. You saw some of the videos that I sent out about how the process works. The outline of what we're going to do is, let's see, where's our outline? Is we're going to go for about 2 hours, maybe not the full amount, but close to 2 hours. And then we'll have some participant introductions so everyone can introduce themselves. I'll explain the empathy circle process, and then we'll do the empathy circle process for about 80 minutes, and then we'll sort of open it up for just general open-ended discussions. So I guess we can just start with, if everyone would like to share your name and why you're interested in taking part in this circle, and maybe your location, and take up to 30 seconds or a minute, and I'll just model it. Edwin Rutsch, Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area near Berkeley, and Charles asked me to manage the property, so that's why I'm interested and really excited about it, to create a empathy-based retreat center there at 1964 Canoas. So very excited about that. So Charles, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, my name is Charles Rutsch. I'm Edwin's brother. This is my wife, Vasilisa. We have 4 children. We live in the Sacramento area, and I bought the property last November.
Vasilisa, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, my name is Vasilisa. I'm Charles's wife and Edwin's sister-in-law. Well, of course, I'm going to be interested in the property that my husband decided to buy. And I like it that it is a former Catholic seminary, because Christianity and faith mean a lot to me. And I like that there's a chapel there, and a cross and a prayer garden. So for me, that's kind of the, how to utilize those kind of my ideas about that.
Great, thanks, Vasilisa. Peter, would you like to?
Sure, yeah. Hi, my name's Peter Danciart. I'm an architect, been in the business since 1996. Edwin and Charles invited me to join the circle today, possibly working on the project full-time. We'll see how that goes. I worked in the Bay Area for 7 years after graduating college from Tucson, Arizona, and moved down to San Luis Obispo 21 years ago, and love it down here in Central Coast. And I'm on a spiritual journey myself, so this kind of aligns exactly with what I'm looking to do in life. I'm a believer in the Tao and things of that nature, and so I'm, like Vasilisa, very interested in this being a former seminary and what that evokes in terms of reflective, personal reflection and empathy from Jesus Christ, what he had to teach. I think that kind of rolls into empathy and teaching that to what I've heard in other visiting circles to the youth. I think that's very important if you want this culture to continue and propagate. I mean, it's very necessary. A lot of divisiveness in this country right now, so I mean, it's a good thing to try and implement. And I'd love to be a part of it, be part of the team, and figure out how to make it work.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Haley, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Haley. I'm here in Santa Barbara, and I was born and raised in the Canyon. Still live in the area, so I've passed that building many, many times in my life. And and the canyon means so much to me. I'm a therapist here in town, and my background is in landscaping and botany. So all of these things holistically are really important to me. So I'm mostly here just with curiosity to hear what y'all have in mind. That space is, I think, wonderful, and the aspect of community and connection feels really important right now, especially, I mean, for all of us. So yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us. Wes?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Wes Cook. I live in San Luis Obispo. I've got a design firm here called Seventh Generation Design, and we focus on designing resilient human habitats and gathering spaces that are integrated with the larger ecology in a sustainable and even beyond sustainable regenerative way, and ecology not in terms of just the landscape, but also the social fabric and cultural fabric. So Edwin reached out and invited me to join. I'm attracted to this project for several reasons. One of which is I really would love to see just more educational hubs develop up and down the coast that are demonstrating more holistic ways of integrating with the ecology, with the culture, spirituality. I have some experience, personal experience with another well-known retreat center in California, and my fiance was actually born and raised there. So we've had years of conversations about what really worked there and what didn't work so well there, and the place has just been such a impactful part of our lives. So I really, just love the idea of another retreat center developing, and already what I'm seeing here with just this discussion with the broader community is something that is going really well, that the other retreat center we were familiar with, I think didn't tend as much to. So yeah, feel really grateful also to just sit in on this process and learn more about empathy circles. So yeah, thank you all for having me.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. And this is participatory, so everyone's equally involved in this process. So the mission of the Empathy Center, I'd sent that out in the email, is to build a culture of empathy, which is really for nurturing, fostering deep listening and bringing together people, bridging social, political, and personal divides. And we, to model the practice, we're using this empathy circle process, which I find is the best first step gateway practice for empathy building skills and listening skills. So it's a chance for everyone to be able to express themselves fully, freely, say whatever's on your mind. There's, nothing's off the table here. Everyone gets heard to their satisfaction. And it has a lot of other, many other positive benefits, which I hope we'll get to experience here. And so in the process, hopefully you had a chance to see how the process works. The instructions for anyone watching this will be down in the description area. And the process is we're going to have a topic, which I'm going to put into the chat here, which is what is your vision for developing a retreat center at 1964 Las Canoas Rd, Santa Barbara, or whatever's on your mind. If there's anything that you feel energetic about, feel free to talk about that. We're going to have 4-minute turns, and I'll keep time. And if your time is up, I'll just hold up a little something like this, time. At that point, you just kind of finish what you're saying, get a final empathic reflection, and then it'll become the turn of the listener to become the speaker. So in this process, we have our topic. You'll as the speaker, you select someone to speak to, you share an idea or two. Your listener is going to reflect back their understanding of what you've said. You sort of check, did they really understand what I'm saying? If they did, you continue with what you're saying. If you don't feel I really understood you, you can just say it again in other words until you feel heard and understood to your satisfaction. It's based on active listening or empathic listening. So we're doing it in a group setting. So with that, once as a listener, once the speaker feels heard to their satisfaction, their time is up, then you select your listener and then you speak, and we just go around for the time allotted. I think you all saw the instructions, hopefully, that I'd sent out for how to do this. So we can just dive right in, and whoever would like to start, I'll be the first listener to model it, and you have 4 minutes to talk about whatever your vision is for the center, and remember to pause periodically so the listener can reflect back. So who'd like to start and speak to me about whatever your thoughts are?
Maybe I will start.
Okay, I'm listening.
I have to mention that I only have time until 11 o'clock because I have an appointment at 11:15 I have to be at. So it's like.
Okay, I just want everyone to know 11 o'clock, you got to drop out if you have an appointment.
Well, there's so much that can be done with the center. As I mentioned, because faith is important to me and I'm a Christian, I'm thinking about the decor of the center, and I would like to keep it consistent with kind of what is there now.
So you're just sharing that you're a Christian, and in terms of the decor, you'd like to keep it consistent with sort of that religious decor.
Mm-hmm. I do feel like, even though I'm not Catholic, for me, it's kind of a, it's a place where it was prayed over and probably sanctified in a Catholic way. So to me, to me, it doesn't matter which branch of Christianity the seminary belongs to or belonged to.
Yeah, so it's a Catholic seminary, and you're not Catholic, but you feel it's Christian, and so you want to keep within that area of Christianity, an aspect.
Yeah, so like the cross, the statue of, Mary, anything like that, I feel like that's great. Of course, other religions and people will be welcome there. It's not just exclusively for Christians, but like the physical decor is, I'm hoping going to stay consistent with kind of the foundation.
Yeah, so other religions are welcome, but you hope that the decor, the Christian decor stays there, the decor that's there stays there.
And it may be, maybe more of it, but along the same line.
Yeah, it's just that things stay sort of along that same line. That
the prayer garden, I know it is kind of overgrown right now, and there's a fear of rattlesnakes. I don't know. I don't know if there are devices to get rid of rattlesnakes, like, there are gopher electric currents to scare those away. I don't know what to do with rattlesnakes. But I would like to put, the prayer garden into a, usable conditions so that people can actually walk on paths, enjoy the nature, meditate, pray, whatever they want to do there.
yeah, you like the prayer garden, the pathway. So you're hoping that can be fixed up. And you had some concerns about the rattlesnakes. That if you hear there's rattlesnakes there, and you're wondering if there's something that can be done about rattlesnakes.
I think that's probably all for now.
Okay, great. Then I'll select Wes. Yep, for listening.
I am.
Okay, started the clock. Yeah, in terms of the structure of the center, what we're looking at right now is that the center is, Charles purchased it in Vasilisa, through their LLC, and we're looking at setting up a nonprofit, the Empathy Center nonprofit, to manage it. So that's sort of the current intention.
Okay, so it sounds like it's currently under ownership by a for-profit corporate structure, and you're exploring what it would look like to transfer ownership into a nonprofit structure.
Or have it be leased by the nonprofit structure, the Empathy Center.
Okay, or have it so either owned or leased by a nonprofit structure, and yeah.
Yeah, so that's and the center is, the Empathy Center is based on the values which I'd sent out about really fostering an empathic way of being. So we really want to foster empathy between all different groups. So in terms of the religious part, I see it as bridging the sort of an interfaith, bringing different religions together to have foster dialogue with each other.
So the current Empathy Center is its goal is to foster empathy between different groups of people, cultures, religious backgrounds, and you're envisioning that this place continue to further that mission.
As well as bridging the divide, political divides. There's, a lot of social political divides going on, especially, conservative, liberal, and that's kind of work that we've been doing, is listening to both sides and also mediating between the sides.
So the Empathy Center's really working to foster empathy between all forms of disparate opinions, backgrounds, cultural groups, political groups, religious groups, and you're envisioning that this center can further that.
Yeah, and also I'm glad you're here because of the permaculture. Is that permaculture would be a part of that too, in terms of empathy with nature. I think permaculture is sort of an empathic sort of a process of bringing in gardening, gardens, food production, sort of an integration with the land.
This you're attracted to the idea of permaculture and feel like it integrates well with this larger vision, and serves to further the mission of not just fostering empathy between different human groups, backgrounds, but also between humans and the larger ecology, the greater life that exists.
Yeah, it's more of a holistic, it's sort of really, I see empathy as sort of a foundation. Mutual empathy is sort of a foundation for really a way of being. So.
Yeah. I'm hearing that empathy is really, it's a foundational kind of ethical, or it's a principled way of interacting with the greater world.
Yep, I feel fully heard. Yep. So yeah, you can select your listener.
Great. Let's see. How about Charles?
Okay.
Hey, Charles.
Hey.
Feeling. So what I would like to see in a retreat center that's developing is a place to really demonstrate how humans can be, just like Edwin said, not just relating to, from my focus, what my focus has largely been lately, which is relating with the greater ecology in a more healthy and holistic way, but also with each other as kind of the biggest hurdle that it seems like we all have to moving towards a more sustainable future.
So you'd like us humans to relate in a more sustainable way with the ecology and the world around us and with each other in a better way.
Yeah. In my experience at this other retreat center that I've spent some time at, it was really, what first actually drew me there was the grounds, and they actually had a permaculture education program in place. They've got a beautiful farm on property. I mean, there are 3 different bodies of water that all intersect in this place: hot springs, a river, ocean, and it's the place is just completely, it's just incredible from a food production standpoint, from a beauty standpoint, from an ecological standpoint. And it's done some amazing things, and also furthering the human connection piece. And yet what I've seen is that actually is still the biggest hurdle in the sustainability and the longevity of this place is actually, despite the fact that it's been touted as a center for furthering the human potential movement, that still remains to be the biggest hurdle in the progression of this location is humans working together.
So in this other retreat center, it was fabulous as far as food production. It had different water sources around it, hot springs. It had the ocean, sounds like a creek or a river or something. And it did great things with food production and ecology and making it kind of fit into the land. But it sounds like they kind of had some things lacking with human interactions there, is what I think you're saying.
Yeah. And in my background, what I've been focusing on, as I said, has been really working with farms, ranches, retreat centers, homesteads, and developing healthy relationships with the local ecology. And we have a structure that we go about our design work with, ranging from water, access, shelter, food. But the last few elements that are that require the least amount of energy to change and are the least permanent, but are potentially the most impactful, are community and then spirit. So I'm feeling very excited about about this place, this retreat center, not just embodying and demonstrating these, other aspects, but also really focusing from an early standpoint, from an early position on interacting with the broader community, with the people involved there directly.
So you've been working with farms and homesteads and other properties, kind of designing their ecology and how they kind of shape and relate to the land. And you're really involved in that. And you also want to kind of change the culture so that we interact better with each other.
And that was the time. So.
I feel fully heard.
Okay, I'll speak with Haley Fuller. You haven't spoken yet.
Sure.
Okay. So a friend of mine told me the property was being put up for auction. So I thought I would bid on it. The initial price was pretty low. You can reflect what I just said.
A friend mentioned to you that the property was for sale and the initial price was pretty low. So for auction.
Yeah, for the starting bid. So my idea was kind of like a retreat center with men's retreats, women's retreats, marriage retreats, and youth camps. And I kind of have some nostalgic feelings about some of the camps I've attended in the past.
The original idea was a retreat center for youth retreats and all kinds, and it was nostalgic. It hit close to home for you and some things you've experienced.
Yeah, so I bid on it a few times, and then it got a little high, more than I was probably going to spend. But then I got a text saying the next bid meets the reserve price, so I decided to bid just one more time, and that was the winning bid.
The bidding process started to get a little high, but you heard that the reserve price, I guess, was
Yeah,
was
there was a text that was sent out by the auction company saying the next bid meets the reserve price. So I just decided to bid one more time.
Mhm. Okay. The next bid was the reserve price, and you decided to bid.
So I won the auction with that bid and told my brother, hey, I bought a monastery. Do you want to help me run it?
You purchased a property and you reached out to your brother and you said, I bought a monastery. Can you help?
And so here we are. Yeah, that's about all I had to say. It's your turn to speak.
Okay. Thank you.
Choose your listener.
Yes. Let's see. Peter is the name I'm seeing on your tag there.
Yes.
You listen? Okay, sounds good. And I also have to leave at 11 because I have a session, so I'll be hopping off, but thank you for having me for any amount of time. So I guess I understand and really appreciate the concept of empathy and effort to understand being sort of the foundational piece of the whole concept here, and having that be the thread that runs through all of the, I guess, concrete ways in which you'll bring that to fruition through the community. I guess I'll stop there. You can reflect.
So I'm hearing that you appreciate the underlying value of empathy and how it's going to weave its way through all the processes of the project.
Yes. And it seems clear that that's a really important value to everyone here, and we understand that piece. So I guess what I could share are some things that I think could be interesting based on what I've heard through needs of the community and of my peers, and I think what people are looking for, especially in this format.
So you said that you think that empathy is very important to everyone here on this circle, and that you can share what you've heard from the community around the seminary of what needs and goals would be heard from you guys.
Yeah. And through sort of some of the lamenting in my work as a therapist, some of the things that people are really needing on like a deep soul level, which is a space for, I think, connection with other humans and community, like being around more bodies and being around more minds and exchange of ideas and celebrations, and a reconnection with, which a lot of people have spoken to, particularly Wes, like a reconnection with our ecology and our purpose and our roots and the earth, and how this whole thing is very circular and deepening.
So in your work and your practice of personal therapy, you're hearing people really need to reconnect on a soul level with the source and understand that we're all one, and reconnecting with the land is a way to make that happen, and interacting with other bodies of like mind or maybe even differing values, because our minds are open when we visit other cultures and other ideas. We might not see something. Anyway, I'm actually elaborating there. Go ahead.
I appreciate it though. Yes. So like, I guess my contemporaries and I have been enthusiastic about envisioning a space that's like, I don't know, maybe membership based or something where people can come and there's yoga, there's event spaces for workshops, celebrations, speakers, music opportunities, permaculture and ecology workshop kind of things. The spiritual aspect will be interesting to weave in, whether that means talks on spirituality or even services. And yeah, I don't know, bringing in schools or local, the youth to feel connected and to be, to get educated on all of these things. There's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, you have a lot there. See if I can get it all. So you see you and your contemporaries have a lot of ideas of how to reconnect in terms of different workshops and different activities, whether it be membership based or not, like yoga and permaculture classes, youth programs, prayer services as sees fit. I think that's generally what you're saying.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Yeah, I feel heard.
Great. We'll circle back to Edwin, I guess.
Listening.
I think this is a very good way to approach envisioning a project in terms of programming a space using empathy.
I'm hearing you're appreciating this process as a way of envisioning for the space.
Right. I've watched 2 of those circles, and I know it's a long process, but I think at the end of the day, it's really beneficial for everyone to hear the thoughts and feel heard.
And you realize it is a long process approach, and but it is important to hear everyone's and your sort of appreciation for that part.
Correct. Being an architect, like Wes, I have a very creative mind. So I have lots of different ideas that have already started to, a couple pages worth of different ideas already starting to generate in terms of things that I could see happening there.
And like Wes, as a designer, you have a creative mind, and already a lot of ideas are starting to come up, and you got, looks like pages of them.
Yes, and like Vasila, sorry for butchering your name.
Vasilisa.
Vasilisa, thank you. I'm drawn to the spiritual aspect of the space, although me personally, coming from a Catholic and Episcopalian background, I have a lot of reservations about Catholicism and what it means to the rest of the world, and how it's had a harmful impact on society, and how to integrate that, those underlying values in that.
So like Vasilisa, spirituality, I think is important to you, and you have a background in Catholicism and something Episcopalian, but you have some sort of questions or doubts about the Catholic Church and trying to address those.
Right. And like Vasilisa, I appreciate the religious iconographic imagery that's there, especially the stained glass, which is always very beautiful. And I think it brings you to another place. So I think it's just a delicate balance of how to integrate that. I mean, I'm interested in confessionals and how do you repurpose those spaces. That's one of the things when I was at the space, at the facility with Jose, gave me a wonderful tour. And I think I mentioned in my email, he has lots of great insights into the facility. That was one of the things one of the spaces I was thinking about how would you use those or not, or how do you respect the former seminary, but use it for a new purpose.
Yeah, so you had taken a tour of the property and you appreciate the stained glass windows as well as the confessionals, and just wondering how that could be, had some ideas maybe about how those could be used, those confessionals, or
Right.
be repurposed, or what could be done with them. So, yeah.
Right. Because I see empathy, this empathy circling reminds me a lot of confessionals, and it's, telling how you're feeling, what you want. It's like it's therapy, and reflecting back to you, so you're being heard and releasing that out into the universe.
So you see what we're doing here with the empathy circle has an overlap with perhaps therapy, expressing yourself, or maybe even confessionals. So there's some sort of overlap there.
Right. And just I'll just jump into some practical matters there. Things I'd like to see happening with the center. I think in the last few circles, I've heard lots about, like I said earlier, educational opportunities with the youth. I think that's really important to bring in. I've heard that here as well today. And with that gym and the surrounding nature of the 35 acres, I think there's wonderful opportunities for nature hikes and maybe even little pavilions out in the landscape to have little yoga, little yoga workshops, or Tai Chi. I'm into Tai Chi, so I'm interested in that, really connecting to the energies of the body and, and the surroundings. So I want to incorporate more of that, what Vasilisa was talking about, the courtyard, have a more of a meditative environment in there, because it has, the seminary is built around like a mission concept of having a courtyard and having I'll stop there. And then
yeah, so you have some ideas that were coming up. One was with the gym, that's kind of relates with the youth coming in there. Also with the property, with the space, having like pavilions, for spaces for doing different activities, yoga, Tai Chi. And then you're sort of exploring the courtyard area, which is based on sort of the mission courtyard approach, the design, right. I guess.
Correct. I feel very good there. And I really feel like the parking in there is killing the vibe of that space. So I would like to see that parking lot removed and put down by the gym and expand the landscape opportunities there. And whether that prayer garden is kept and brought back to life or reconfigured to still be a prayer garden, a meditative space, I think it might be important to use different semantics to make everyone feel more inclusive. But just as I know some people get really turned off by Christianity, and although I feel it's an important path, I just think should be cognizant of that.
That was the time I gave the final reflection. So you're looking at the that courtyard area, the parking lot, and feel that the parking lot, the parking should be moved to the gym and that space be used. And you're looking at more like a contemplative prayer garden, but also with a sensitivity that some people might turn some people off, kind of it's real religious. Have some sensitivity for that. And that was the time. Did you feel heard?
I do. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'll speak to Haley. Yeah, so the overall idea is very much what you were sort of addressing, sort of multifaceted types of workshops, and just kind of using the spaces in just a lot of different ways.
The idea or the concept is to create a multifaceted space to use it many different ways.
Yeah, so I agree with the courtyard area, that it feels sort of like a motel with that parking lot up there. You feel like you're driving up to some kind of a Motel 6 or something. So that kind of being, if as much as possible, turned into more gardens or something would probably be good.
Yeah, you agree that the courtyard area and the parking lot gives it sort of a motel vibe. So it'd be nice to create a more beautiful area there.
Yeah, and in terms of religiousness, I am not religious, so I from my own experience, I just found that the values sort of trumps religion in a sense, that it's really about human connection. And I've held empathy circles with different interfaith, and so everybody can just believe what they want is fine with me, but the core thing is that people have to be able to listen to each other. And if we can sort of have that as a core foundational cultural value, that's I think is central, and it's really missing in our society.
It sounds like for you, as not being someone who adheres to a particular religion, it's more important for you to understand the underlying values, and that listening to each other and hearing each other to find those things and connect there is what society is missing.
Yeah, and that's what's missing from our politics. Our current politics is, for me, we have this empathy tent. We take it out to political demonstrations between the political left and right. We sort of listen to both sides. We help mediate, between the sides. And I think we need to take this all the way to Congress, for example, get the Republicans and Democrats to, have these empathy circles and dialogue with each other. So that's sort of the overall mission of the center that I see, is to promote that core value. And it really ties in with, any kind of activity, really. Yeah.
So particularly with regard to politics, this way of connecting empathetically should be, I guess, implemented more and can be really effective. And it's sort of an underlying piece for all kinds of communicating and understanding each other.
Yeah, and as a marriage family therapist, you're probably very aware of it. If you can get a family that's in conflict to listen to each other, that's kind of how, issues get worked out. And, with Vasilisa and Charles and our family, we've done family empathy circles, and it can be very effective. So it's not only the political sphere, the environmental, but also family and, personal support, I think, is foundational.
Yeah, you're recognizing that even with families, the concept of listening to each other and empathizing is really important and foundational for all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's time consuming, like Peter says, but I think it was Stephen Covey says, it's better to work out these problems, beforehand than all the time it takes to clean up, problems down the road. So in the long term, this is actually much less time consuming, I think.
Yeah, although this way seems a little bit time consuming, it sounds preventative as opposed to trying to clean up all the misunderstandings afterwards.
And since we have two designers here, I also see empathy core to human-centered design. I've done a lot of work with human-centered design that comes out of, IDEO or the design school at Stanford. And their process, the core of design, is first you start with empathizing with the needs of people before you're designing, and it's core to the whole design process. So I see that as another some more activities I'd love to do at the center is design, especially human-centered design work.
So you've had some experience with this idea of human-centered design and having empathy and the needs of the people be something to be considered prior to the design, and having that concept come into the work at the center?
Yes, very much so. Feel fully heard. Thanks.
Yep.
And so you're up again. Select your listener. Maybe Vasilisa, since she needs to leave as well. So
Yeah, Vasilisa, you're welcome to go. I feel like I've shared, and
you can share. Oops, sorry. You can share. Just speak to Vasilisa, and then it'll be her turn after you.
sure. Let's see, what do I want to share? Or what more do I have to share, really?
So you're wondering what you can share and what more you have to share.
I feel heard. Yes. I guess all I have to share is that I feel like I really understand the necessity for this culture, like you say, of empathy and listening and understanding to be something that can really improve the way we all connect and the way we exist. So I just really have more curiosity as time goes on about what that means specifically for like the functions of the center. And
Maybe I should reflect. So I, like Edwin, you're really interested in creating this culture of empathy and more connection between people. So you're curious to see how this develops in the future. Did I miss something? It was a little.
that feels pretty good. I'm a little vague, but basically bringing this whole conversation that's conceptual into something that is comes to fruition, like the concrete nature of this, how this works and what this exactly looks like. That's just where my curiosity is and why I'm here today.
So you like the idea and the vision, but you're wondering how it will materialize, right? How it will, what's the concrete application of all of this play out?
Yeah. So I feel heard and we'll continue to listen for now.
Okay. Let's see. Maybe I'll speak to Peter.
I'm listening.
You mentioned that you feel like anything that has to do with Catholicism or maybe even broader Christianity can be a turnoff for people.
I'm hearing you say that. I think that anything to do with Christianity or Catholicism could be a turnoff for some people.
Well, I'm calling the garden prayer garden because there are two plaques there on two sides of the path. You know, they're on stones and they're dedicated. The prayer garden is dedicated to a priest or bishop this and bishop that. I don't remember the names. And that's what it's called. It's called the prayer garden.
Right. I'm hearing you say that the prayer garden was dedicated as a prayer garden, and there's some stones with plaques on them that was dedicated to certain bishops. You're not aware what their names are.
Now, as far as can those be removed, and it just is called a prayer garden. Like I don't want to be sacrilegious and being like, well, I don't like their names. I don't know how to act here, so it's respectful, but it's also more accepting to other people. My first question is, would other Christians be turned off because it's too Catholic, And then I'm open to what about other people? Because there's also some tension between, evangelicals, Catholics, Orthodox.
Right. So I'm hearing you say that. I think you are aware that there is conflicts, but even in the Christianity sects, and would it be a turnoff either way to those certain individuals? Is that basically what you're saying?
Well, I was talking more specifically about the prayer garden. Like if those plaques are removed or the stones are removed and we just leave it as a prayer garden, it may please more people, but not everybody.
So you're saying if the stones are removed, it might appeal to more people, but it could offend the people that believe or respond to those elements as they are.
So can it be prayer and meditation garden combined? I think it can. Do I completely want to remove the word prayer that was there for like 40 years? I'm kind of reluctant to, It's like that's one of the things that attracted, me to, well, actually, yeah, that's one of the things that I liked about the idea is that even though it's far away, my husband was buying this seminary, which he called a monastery at first.
So that was one of the things that attracted you to the property yourself, and you found Charles was interested in buying this property, that it was had a religious overtone to it, and that you respect that.
Mhm. Actually, at first he told me it was a monastery.
Oh, right.
And when I told my parents my husband bought a monastery, they said, "I think so bad at home."
Actually, it was you. Charles had told you that he bought a monastery, but and your parents, when you told your parents that, they thought, "Is everything okay at home?" Which is rather fun.
But
But
they
it was a
thought
seminary.
considering becoming a monk. So
I can feel that. I understand that.
I feel
Come on.
horrific. Yeah.
Oh, so it's, yeah, my turn.
You're up again, Peter.
I'll speak to Wes, I guess, because I don't think Haley wants to participate. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I'm listening.
So, okay. So I'll just talk about what Vasilisa was just talking about. I personally don't have any problems with the religious overtones. And I personally I'm taking issue with all the cancer culture that we're going through in the world. I think, live and let live type thing, and people are getting a little too uptight about it all. So I understand where you're coming from for sure. I'm not trying to denigrate that at all.
What I'm hearing is you also appreciate the religious background history behind this place. What you are feeling challenged by right now in this larger culture is this what's being called cancel culture, and for you it's about really embracing everybody, and live and let live is how you phrase that.
Yes, and that's one of the draws to me. Is I was like, Edwin, I would interested in the monk lifestyle a little bit, joking, and so the seminary aspect of it is interesting to me, in the sense that teaching people how to spread the good word to the rest of the world. So I think I think there's a great synergy with Empathy Center and spreading the good word of empathy, and teaching people how to do that. That's where I was asking Edwin in one of my emails about the dormitories. Do you want, as an architect thinking about how to design spaces and things like that, do you want these spaces to be of a monastic type feel, where it's very austere and you're there to reflect, do the inner work?
I'm hearing that the educational background of the space as a seminary, you really like that aspect of it and would like to see that carried forward. You feel like it integrates and is harmonious with what you're hearing and what you're envisioning for the space as being a place to educate about what you're calling the good word. And then I heard you share empathy as being the good word, or related to your beliefs around what the good word is.
Correct. And then, where your background in terms of the entire landscape and how to use the entire property to educate people. One of the things that I feel lacking, and I don't know what retreat center you've been affiliated with in the past, but I know Edwin has been to Esalen, and I'm only familiar with Esalen because of my days back up in the Bay Area and all the people up there going there. I don't know if that's the particular retreat center you're referring to or not. I don't know if you want to name names, But
It is.
I'll let you reflect that, and then I'll.
Yeah. So you were wondering, you have some background with Esalen in Big Sur from when you were living in the Bay Area. You have some experience there, and you're wondering if that's the retreat center I'm referring to, which it is.
Okay. Actually, I don't have any personal experience. I've never been to Esalen. I've only heard about it and seen pictures and the like. And one of the draws I've always heard from people about there is the natural beauty, how beautiful of a place it is. And of course, it's right on the coast and, beautiful landscapes. And that's one of the things that I see that's lacking right now at this place. What is the of the seminary right now? What is the there? What's gonna? I mean, there's the work of empathy, which is I think a draw. But I think people on a superficial level want to go to a place that's going to take them away from their everyday and have a good, beautiful setting. That's my pedestrian view of what a retreat center is. Maybe you guys can educate me more about that. What's the draw for people usually for a retreat center?
I'm hearing so you have no direct experience at Esalen, but you've heard a lot about it, and some of the things that you've heard, or a lot of what you've heard about, is how beautiful the place is, the actual the grounds there, the space itself, and you're feeling like that aspect that you've heard about with Esalen is lacking at this Canoas site, and you're feeling, while empathy is a draw, that for it to really bring in and attract people, to help attract people, really helping to, or focusing on creating more beauty there, would be a good thing.
Right. I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll speak to Edwin.
Listening.
Well, I shared earlier just my appreciation of this, of the focus of one of the focuses, if not the largest focus of this, of what you're sharing, your vision for it, what I heard Vasilisa and Haley share as, and everyone really, as being a center that's focused on facilitating healthier human connection. So I already spoke about that.
So you spoke and addressed what you were hearing others speak about, with about fostering human connection.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. It's something that really excites me about this project. To speak more about, kind of what I'm also excited about, which is the opportunity for this place to be an education center, a demonstration site about relating better to the our local ecology. I'd like to speak more about that.
So the other aspect that excites you is about the space being for educating about the ecology. And that's what you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, I really appreciated what Peter said, and what I think I heard you speak to as well, Edwin, about the flow with the parking and the prayer garden. That's something that is a big focus of our design work, is really creating spaces that just feel good, that are warm and inviting. There's a book that I love. I imagine, Peter, you may have heard of it. It's called A Pattern Language. And it's about, like, what are the things about the spaces that people come to, and that just, they just feel good. They can't even explain it, but they just feel, it feels right. And that book speaks a lot about things like parking and flow and entrances and arrangements. So I really appreciated what you both shared about that.
So you're appreciating what we were talking about in terms of the flow, the experience of the space. And there's a book that kind of talks about that. Sounds like that was a meaningful book to you. And so you're just thinking about the flow, aesthetics, perhaps, and energy of the space.
Yep. And it's something, you know, what I feel to be the two biggest design issues, or the two things that have been neglected the most in coastal California, at least, but I'd say California in large, has been water and our relationship to fire. And in Santa Barbara, I perceive those to be two especially relevant topics.
So two things that you've seen sort of not really addressed on the coast there is fire and water, and they haven't really been addressed in Santa Barbara. Taking those into real consideration with the design, I think you're saying.
Yeah, with most development that's taken place thus far. So something that I really is a big focus on my work is on developing a healthier relationship with water, healthier hydrological cycles, whether it's on an eighth of an acre up to thousands of acres, and also with fire. You know, we live in a fire ecology. California is meant to burn, and I'm really interested in educating and creating demonstration sites that demonstrate how we can live harmoniously with those two elements, and have beautiful spaces, produce food, inhabit them, but also do so in a way that respects the natural cycles of fire and drought here, and also provides resilience in the face of those.
So you're really wanting to educate people about the fire and water issue, and maybe even seeing the center as a space for doing that kind of education.
Yeah,
and that was
I'm
the
really,
time too. But if you want just anything that's just to wrap up to make sure.
yeah, well, just to wrap up, I'm specifically interested in the landscape itself being an educational tool for people who are meditating, who are there, but who are walking around, to really be able to even have a self-guided tour with signage about how the space has been designed to maximize water capture and to operate or to exist harmoniously with the cycles of fire. So it is resilient when fire inevitably does come at some point. So those are the things that excite me.
Yeah, so you really feel excited about sort of an educational space that people can take a walk and learn about the nature and the fire issues and the water issue. They could be sort of educated through walking through the space. So almost like a prayer garden for awareness of the ecology, I guess.
Exactly. I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay, Charles, can I speak to you?
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of what Peter's saying is about the, what is the thing that attracts you to the space? I'm sort of seeing permaculture as what could be the space, that the having more food gardens and maybe even terracing the hills, with gardens and orchards like that. So kind of what Wes is talking about, that, hey, this is this really cool place for come learn about the ecology and permaculture and gardening and so forth.
So you're really excited about the potential for food gardening, orchard, maybe terracing the hillsides, and having that as a big draw for the center.
Yeah, because it has, right now it has the view, which is, a great view. So that's sort of an attraction. But the buildings, everything looks so institutional. So that's kind of like, kind of a downer, but I'm seeing sort of maybe more gardens in the square. It's like Peter's talking about, like if you see the old mission, they've got a square in the middle, and it's actually a garden, have food gardening or whatever flowers, etc., like that, that is more sort of alive and sort of connected with you going out and picking some fruit, vegetables or fruit or something like that. So that whole permaculture could be like an attraction, I think, for the space.
So I think you were mentioning the area between the parking lot and the chapel, that could be a garden with flowers and producing food and something that grabs people's attention. And
Yeah. And I really like I was starting to see the connection, like, Vasilisa's talking about the prayer walk, but you combine that with a ecology prayer, type walk. So I can see sort of emerging of those concepts too, which would be kind of, yeah.
so, yeah, the prayer walk could be combined with like an ecology walk where maybe there's signs that said, hey, we did this to the landscape because of the fires, and this is, kind of our educate people on what can be done.
Yeah, and then they can actually, pick some vegetables, fruit or something, they're kind of integrated. So it does seem like it could be, if I doing Google Earth, going over the space of the neighborhood, there doesn't seem to be a lot of gardening. It's more desert plants, ornamentally organized, and it's not like I didn't, at least through Google Earth, didn't see much sort of permaculture type environments up there. Maybe it's a water issue. I don't know, but.
So in Google Earth, you didn't see much as far as orchards or food production. It's more of a deserty area with limited water resources.
Yeah. And I was just thinking of the dormitories that Peter was saying is about inner work. There's a lot of, Buddhism and so forth, or monasteries. It's about this inner work. I see the empathy being more relational, with a focus on bringing people together, like what we're doing here. Like we're coming together to interact with each other, and how do we develop the tools and practices that foster sort of this relational aspect.
So you see the empathy work as bringing people together and fostering relational aspects. And so was there more?
Yeah, it's teaching how to listen, which is what Haley is doing as a counselor. You're listening to people, which is just a healing practice in itself. Therapy is basically somebody that's going to listen to you. And so it's that listening, but it being mutual, not just sort of an individualistic approach, but we're in relationship with people and fostering those skills.
So you really see the value of someone listening to you. That's kind of the basis of a lot of therapy. Everybody wants to be heard and understood. And that's a big part of this.
And Christian was going to be here. He's the staff. I forgot to mention he had a migraine, so he wasn't here. That's why Vasilisa stepped in. So I just wanted to explain that to everyone.
So our caretaker, Christian, had a migraine. He was going to be here, but he wasn't able to be.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thanks.
Okay, I'll speak to Peter.
Okay, I'm listening.
Well, I spoke with my brother. We were discussing, the dormitory renovations, and one idea was to use the gray water to irrigate, the plants and so forth. So that's kind of one thing to discuss, and if that's feasible, and if there's rules and regulations about using gray water.
Yes. I'm hearing you say that you and Edwin had talked about the dormitories and how to reuse the gray water for irrigation. And if there's rules and regulations around that.
Right. I think that's all I had to say. I feel heard.
Okay.
It's good.
I'll speak to Wes.
I'm listening.
Okay, and to follow up on what Charles was just inquiring about, I can speak to that a little bit, and I know you know probably more about that. Yes, Charles, that could definitely be done. There's a lot of infrastructure that's in place on those dorms, what I saw already. Just a matter of tapping into that and then being able to store and treat the gray water appropriately, and then pump it out to irrigate. And I imagine that Wes has more knowledge about that than I, but I know it can be done and it has been done, and it's just a matter of infrastructure and cost.
You're responding to Charles' comment, your interest in cycling the gray water into the landscape, and sharing your belief that that can be done legally, and it's just a matter of how it needs to be done, and the cost associated with making that happen.
Correct. Yes, and I'm fully with Edwin about having educational gardens and the aspect of that being the draw, because I feel there needs to be something there. And yes, the view is amazing up there at sunset. I mean, it's just fantastic. I was there at sunset and it's just very beautiful. So how to incorporate outdoor spaces on that edge of the western edge of the property, I think is critical. I saw some pictures of when the property was in good shape, when Jose was really keeping the property up, and it's beautiful when it's cared for.
You're sharing your appreciation for the location, the view from the property, and your appreciation for moments when you've seen it in really good shape and well tended, and the beauty that it had in that moment intrinsically, and sharing your appreciation for Edwin's thoughts around an agreement with Edwin's thoughts around really creating food gardens and outdoor spaces throughout the property that enhance the view, complement the view, and create more of a draw for the community.
Correct. And since there's all the trails up into the hills, and there's a trailhead right below the property that actually crosses the property, goes into the property, I believe there probably is an easement that would probably need to be looked into. But I see that as another avenue for teaching, like you were talking about, the local ecology, and getting groups to take hiking tours could be in one of the workshops and things like that. So I think that's really interesting to me. I think there's great potential for water harvesting on site. There's a lot of roof spaces that we can collect water from. It's a matter of how to retain it and reuse it. And speaking to your interest in water in California, and how do we live with it and without it? How do we be mindful of that?
What I'm hearing is you really appreciate the access opportunities that currently exist both on the property, but also the adjacent public access that connects, you believe, nicely with the trails on the property, and that could present an opportunity for not just people who are there specifically on site to enjoy the prayer walk or the ecology walk, meditation walk, but also people who are coming through that public access to also take that. And you also perceive there to be a lot of opportunity for water harvesting, not just through gray water, but also through the existing roofs and hardscapes.
Correct. And just the elaboration of connecting to their property to the existing trailheads to expand that use.
You're clarifying that the existing public trailhead does not currently link up with the trails on the property, but you see there to be an opportunity to connect those.
Correct. And then otherwise, I see lots of opportunities with the dining hall to create some outdoor spaces, alfresco spaces on the west side and on the courtyard side to have different ways of, so you can enjoy the sunset view. And then also have more of a protected view when it's more inclement weather and things of that nature. I think there's opportunities for things like that to bring outside in and things of that like.
You're appreciating the siting of the dining hall on the west side, I believe you said, and how that presents its own unique set of opportunities at the site in terms of weather, view, to have outdoor spaces integrated with the dining hall.
Correct. I feel heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do you want to just speak to and then Wes, and then we will open it up after that? Speak to
Okay.
someone.
Yeah, sure. I'll speak with Charles.
Okay.
Well, I really appreciated your comment about gray water. Start with that.
Yeah, you appreciate the comments about gray water. I mean, there's dormitories there and people will be taking showers and stuff.
Yeah, there is a huge opportunity there. I think, Edwin, you mentioned there not being much many food producing systems in the surrounding area. I think that is in no small part due to water. And I would be surprised if any of the surrounding properties are utilizing gray water or are really intentionally directing roof capture and hardscape capture. So I think really leveraging the water production or I guess cycling the use of water through the structures and from the roofs intentionally into garden spaces can be a really great way to produce food, create a more fire safe garden, and create more soil fertility.
So probably very few places, properties in the area use fully their gray water or their runoff water to benefit their landscapes, and there's very little food production because it's so dry. So you're kind of excited about using those aspects into the property.
Yes, and it is very possible to do. And in fact, it doesn't, storage systems and filtration systems are not required legally, depending on what gray water, what the source is. And in fact, they're advised against. It can be a fairly straightforward system in terms of distribution. It's really just reconfiguring the collection plumbing that can be the more difficult piece. So it's very feasible and I think would be an amazing aspect of the education and demonstration of this property to the Santa Barbara and larger California community.
So water collection and storage isn't necessarily required for gray water. And you're kind of excited about using this property as a kind of demonstration piece for other people, because certainly other people will be going there to retreat centers, so it can be a great educational aspect to it. And yeah, since the dorms are going to be renovated, it will be very easy to integrate the gray water system during the renovations.
Yeah, and in terms of food, creating this what I like to call food forest type environment for people as they're on their meditation walk, prayer walk, enjoying their lunch, and there's fruit hanging from the trees next to them. It's a big something I really enjoy designing is how all of those things can be integrated. Can it produce food? Can it also be fire safe? Can it also be water wise? Rather than these segregated, this is the fire safe garden, here's the food garden. It's like really integrating all of these things. And you'll notice, a lot of the food production in the orchards in Santa Barbara are very water thirsty subtropical avocados. And I really feel excited about, there are so many drought tolerant food producing plants and trees that are just not as well known or not as popular, shall I say, but can be integrated in a really amazing way to create a fire safe, water wise, and very beautiful and lush habitat there.
So you're aware of fruit trees that are drought tolerant, and you would like to integrate those. And some people use avocados, which use a lot of water. And you're excited about people being, at the retreat center and having fruit trees right there for them.
Yeah, I'm feeling. Oh, I'll just add too. It so happens that someone who's considered the gray water guru in North America, at least in the U.S., his name is Art Ludwig, is actually from and lives in Santa Barbara, and he wrote the most amazing resource on gray water that I've found. It's called "Create an Oasis with Gray Water." So, anyways, there's also a great gray water resource there if we really need to call in the big guns surrounding regulations and legal hurdles.
So one of the premier people who knows everything about gray water lives in Santa Barbara. So if we need a resource, he would be a good person to contact.
Yep. I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay, we can just open it up to any kind of questions, comments without empathic reflection. Thanks for going through that process with us. It's a good foundational practice for kind of all the empathy work that we do. So I don't know if anybody has any comments. Charles, did you have any thoughts since you're?
Well, on the purpose of runoff, I know there's a lot of runoff from that parking lot, and then it goes down the road towards the bottom of the hill. So there's a lot of water running down that road. It's kind of a steep slope right there. We did have a few little landslides in these past rains. So I know my brother was talking to you about vetiver, a kind of a grass. And so, yeah, it would be very interesting to me to see what your ideas for all of that. And
yeah, I took the tour on YouTube. That was a great thing, Edwin. So I'm just providing that tour so I could familiarize myself a bit, and also I've looked on Google Earth, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of water moving down that driveway, and we're actually in the midst of several projects here in SLO with that exact focus on turning what is currently a problem, this erosive water runoff, and actually redirecting it and leveraging it and turning it into a resource, banking it in the soil in a non-erosive way to provide nourishment into the dry season for food planting. So yeah, in terms of erosion control or stabilizing what is, vetiver is an amazing plant we feel really excited about. But then also really plugging the leaks in the bucket in the first place, really addressing the current patterning of water on the property and turning it from a problem to a resource is something I feel really excited about. So, and I feel very confident it can be done.
Great.
Yeah, that's actually how I came across you. We had that landslide, and so I started researching, came across vetiver, and you had this video that you'd done with a property. It's a hill in somebody's backyard. You planted all the vetiver there and had a really nice demonstration of it. And then I kind of poked around more and came across your 7th generation design site. And I had sent you also a link to Vetiver Spain. I don't know if you had a chance to see that, but they had a very hilly, really steep hill on their property. And they ended up using vetiver for the terracing they terraced it and then used vetiver to sort of stabilize the edges. And in terms of a demonstration garden, I was just sort of imagining, some terracing, along that hillside.
Yeah, it's I think it would be amazing to integrate that plan for control of the existing erosion, but also if any earthworks are done in terms of terracing, vetiver is amazing for stabilizing the fill slopes on when terraces are put in. It's also self-terracing over time, but that's a longer game, lower cost, but longer approach. So yeah, it's an amazing plan. We feel really excited about it. I'm glad you found that video and found us. I feel really grateful to be sitting here in this circle and appreciate the time that's going in, the legwork early on into all these conversations, because it's normally what we're trying to slow our clients down. We live in a culture, a very detail oriented culture right now, where we want to jump straight to building the chicken coop or straight to putting in the tree. And we're often trying to slow down and encourage more of these conversations. So it feels very refreshing to be in a conversation with so much thought being put in right now. So glad to be here.
Yes, I agree, Charles. I just have some practical issues that I'm just interested for you guys. I mean, I know you guys are working on your nonprofit and all that, but have you looked into the conditional use permit? And I'd heard something about in one of the previous empathy circles that something needed to be done every 6 months to keep the conditional use permit active. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, I think there has to be construction or, some kind of meetings. Or I know they had an AA meeting going on up there. So something along the educational, religious kind of vibe to kind of keep the conditional use permit
Active, right? And so you're aware of that, and you're staying on top of that in terms of having workshops for AA or some kind of retreat going on. You guys are putting that into action.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had an empathy circle with Charles, Christian, and I from the center doing it. So I consider that like an active, workshop. I'll be going down April 2nd. So I'll be down there for a week or more.
Okay.
And then we have some people coming down. So we'll be just doing a workshop. So I think it's just a matter of having, and you're welcome to come join us.
Thank you.
So we'll be holding maybe an empathy circle or something just to kind of keep that use permit active. There is still question if there's a vagueness about the use permit. It seems like it got lost or something. We have somebody kind of working at trying to get it because you want to come in. So this is Joan. I'll just move this over. Partner, who Peter you've met.
Hi.
So yeah, so that's Wes at the bottom and Peter.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Joan.
Oh, let me put you on speaker here so that I got you in my earbud now. So okay, somebody say something. Just want to be sure this is working.
Hello.
Said hi, Joan.
Yeah, we got it. Okay, so we're still working on the use permit, and somebody's working at trying to track it down. It seems like it kind of got lost. Nobody, the county or the city seems to have it. We found some documents that might be it, but we need sort of a determination exactly what it is, because that's going to set the amount of people we can have there, right? The use. And that's going to determine the building, we want to sort of maximize the amount of people that can stay there within the context of the use permit. And that's like the dormitory, how many rooms we make or how we sort of design that. So we're still sort of in the process, not really sure. For not 100%, the city or has said, this is it, this is the use permit. So we're still, it's taking a long time, actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's well, you're not alone. This happens often. Things get lost in the bureaucratic wasteland, and it's quite frustrating. So I feel for you on that. The document that I think, I don't know if you forwarded it or if I found it, but it was the proposal for the rehabilitation center.
Right.
In there, the very last page was the conditional use permit back in 1962 or whatever. And it was very vague. So that was unfortunate, but it also sets, what they're planning to do there was how many beds there were going to be. There's going to be faculty rooms and the like. So as you know, that will set how many, like you're saying, people. And there's also, I don't remember quite the term they use, because every county has every jurisdiction uses a little bit different acronyms sometimes, but it was like a supplemental conditional permit. So we could probably go back in and get something established for what you want to do, because it's not going to be a religious entity anymore. That's what I'm hearing anyway. It's not going to have that hardcore backing from any religious institution. So I don't know if that has to be reworded, and get something, on paper legally, so you're, good to go. I think that'd be beneficial to work that out with them. But I think it's got to be somewhere in their documents. I mean, it's from the county, it's from the city. You have that document. I think we just ask them to recreate it. You have the signatures, it's there, and just get something from now with your new ownership going forward. This is the conditional use permit. You might have to go through, they might not be able to be done administratively just by staff saying, okay, might have to go through a process. I don't know, so to be negotiated with the staff to get one reestablished, but it should be able to be done. So
Yeah, that's sort of the focus. That document that you mentioned, it was previously a treatment center was trying to develop. A group was trying to create a treatment center. They had their proposal. They had something that it seems like it was the use permit, even though other documents have said the use permit is missing. And so there's sort of a vagueness, but we basically just need the city to say, yes, this is what, confirmation, this is the use permit, just so we have their okay for that. But we do have 14 rooms currently that are, usable. If you saw that, there's one wing has been renovated. So the approach we want to take is sort of an incremental to just start fixing up those rooms, start using it. We wanted to talk with you, Wes, about doing the site assessment. You'd sent the proposal, for doing that, to get started with kind of gathering the assessment of the resources that are there, and then just kind of like slowly, kind of incrementally kind of work our way into it, and sort of take a little time before jumping into the renovations. We still don't have enough sense of the market and so forth. Like, do we kind of focus on dormitories in there, half dormitories, others rooms, or all, separate rooms, or, we're still kind of not sure. The use permit says there could be 82 people in that building as dormitories. And if we create separate rooms, then we're down to like 22 or something, like that. So we don't want to lose too much capacity. So anyway, there's just all these questions that are sort of floating around. I don't know, Joan, do you want to say anything? Just
Well, I just got back, and so I don't know what you discussed, but we had hoped to chat with you later when it's convenient for you, Peter. Thank you for sending that detailed proposal. But my sense was that after Edwin and I and Charles spoke, that it's not just the market, it's just getting the outside attractive, getting a group of rooms that we have, and we could really expand that because some of them aren't labeled as bedrooms, that we could try out having some workshops. I mean, that is testing the waters to see, how that is going to work, because this is what we're planning on, is having a retreat center that is available just like Esalen or Mount Madonna for all the arts and, all kinds of workshops, but it would be good to get a sense of how that is going to work. And of course, we will have to do a little something as far as the kitchen if we do any workshops that are not just day longs. You do need to be able to be preparing meals there too. So I felt like it was a much more practical approach, and everything takes time. And whatever I do, I've run communicable disease control programs. I just always feel it's a layered approach. You just keep building on what you have and check out how things are working.
Yeah, I agree. I think you do it, phase it in, and like you said, those rooms are in great shape, brand new, quality materials, and just need to furnish them and get some artwork on the walls to soften things up, some softer materials so it's not so echoey in the hallways and things like that, just to give it some life. And that's what furnishings, fixtures and furnishings are for. So that could be round up. Just trying to think about, try and get I don't want you to do it ad hocly either, so I think it'd be great to come up with a vision, what you want the place to be, what we call in architecture school the concept, that then drives everything you always come back to. What's the concepts?
Right. I don't know. It's probably my hearing, but it wasn't as clear, but I was
I
hearing.
think he's saying about the design, like, we need maybe a designer to have a consistent overall design is kind of what he's saying.
Inside, right. One thing I was going to mention to Charles, and since we're in the circle, from way back, I know an interior designer, it's a young man, they're a gay couple actually, and lived in New York City, and he's still quite young, but he's had years of experience, and I contacted him just to get some ideas and contacts, but he sounds like he might be interested as well, and I think that would be fun. Because he's excellent. He's somebody that I know, but he has a business in Portland, and he's opening another business. So he's got a lot going on. But I just wanted to let you know, Charles, we sent him the slide show, and he's going to look at it and get back with us on that. So,
Okay.
I think that would be great to, as Peter was saying, to have somebody that works with the rooms that we have and feel good about that, and have the outside working, and then we can look at going forward after we try it out.
Okay.
Yeah, the buildings themselves look like the exterior materials and things like that look like they're in great shape, and I'm one to not mess with something that's already doing well. I mean, there's no reason to put plaster all over or anything like that. It's expensive, and they're quality materials. When they did the renovation, they used quality windows and doors. So everything looks really nice. I think Wes's work would really be where you'd want to focus a lot. The grounds, and that would really liven up the place. I mean, I can come up with some paint schemes and things like that for the covered walkways to kind of soften the institutional look, but the buildings themselves, I really wouldn't want to touch that much. I mean, they're already fireproof, being brick buildings, and apparently a concrete roof with clay tile, so they're stout. They're stout buildings. Yes, there's some repair work that needs to be done in terms of some roof leaks and things like that. and all the superstructure looks to be in pretty good shape. There's some accessibility issues for disabled access to get to the chapel and things of that nature, and checking slopes to get down to the recreation room underneath the chapel. Physical access from the gym area up to the main complex, I think could be integrated. So I think, like I mentioned, a topographical survey of the immediate surroundings of the facility is required, so you can get all the grade heights for all the flat work, and down to the road, the driveway rather, for Wes to look at the drainage and all that. And like Wes was talking about, we can capture the water before it starts going down the hill so it doesn't create erosion. Yeah, when I was there, I saw those subsidences along the driveway, and oh, that's something that needs to be taken care of. So I'm glad you're aware of all that. But yeah, I think there's huge opportunities for gardens down by the gym area. There's a lot of flat area down there to have bigger mass production type. Well, not mass production, but more expansive food production than just in the courtyard too. I don't know if Wes, you feel the same way, but there's lots of opportunities for photovoltaic systems on the gym. It's a huge expansive area there that you could do some energy production you could create a very self-contained, go back to the, going back to the mission aspect of it, the Catholic, it's a self-contained entity that is there, a fortress out in the wilderness, takes care of itself. So I think there's a lot to be done there. And so yeah, phased, I have coming up with lots of different programmatical things you could probably do there. Children's programs with theater and music and dance, you had mentioned, Joe, before, in the chapel, how to use that space effectively and still maintain its spiritual aspects. But I'm hearing through all this, you guys really need to get your facility program with your retreat gurus who've been in the business, and I forget the woman's name now. If I look back at my notes, I might be able to find it, but it was a woman, I think she was living up in Seattle area currently, who had worked at Casa de Maria.
Sean.
Yeah, but people like that who really know the ins and outs of functioning and what it's going to take to run this place. I think they need to get a handle on that in terms of, so you can figure out how many people are going to be there at any one time, so you can get a handle on that.
Yeah,
So
that's
the operational aspect of it.
Yeah, it affects the design of the dormitory, and also there's that those classroom area, where
the library is.
They had turned that, I guess, without permits into accommodation. So
that's what I was there's a disconnect there between the drawings and what you guys were talking about as classrooms, because I saw bathrooms in there, but the doors look like they're classrooms with little view windows. So there was a disconnect. So that was non-permitted.
That's what I understood. Yeah. So what we do with that, then, Charles had talked about what was involved in, creating accommodation there, but it seems like it's quite much more complicated because it wasn't permitted for that. So.
Well, that's one of the things I was seeing that was lacking at the space right now is there are no classrooms. It's all bedrooms for the most part. I mean, not saying that some of those already established, the sisters' quarters and the faculty quarters couldn't be made into meeting rooms. Some of them could be. But yeah, that library is it's in great shape for the most part. So that's a great resource for having books about empathy and what you're trying to do there, and ecology, local ecology, the local indigenous people. I think one of the people that talked about that was important to them in the past, about honoring the indigenous culture and how to bring that into the center. And then I think that speaks to what Wes is interested in as well, is how do you live in this particular place? And I'm interested in that as well in terms of my architecture from the ground up, but also reusing a place and how do you make it right for the place that it's in.
Yeah, there's an idea or an aspect of Esalen popped into my head that I have always really appreciated. And Edwin, I know you spent some time there.
Yeah.
Not sure if you have, Joan, or Charles and Vasilisa have, but the bookstore at,
Just
oh, really?
yeah, she was there for quite a while too.
Oh, that's really cool. That's where my fiance and I met as well. Must just be a good place for that. But yeah, my fiance, her name is Manaser. Her mom ran the bookstore at Esalen for about 30 years. And so she has a lot of insight into the inner workings of Esalen, and Manaser's father also ran the preschool there, Gazebo, both of which I imagine could be resources for the community and elements there at this site. But the bookstore in particular is really popular at Esalen. It's a really well curated bookstore, or at least it was when Manaser's mother Carolyn was running it, and it was people really enjoyed going there. I always really enjoyed being in there. It was really beautiful bookstore. It was well curated, but it also provided a substantial amount of income provides a substantial amount of income for Esalen, which just helps, make it all financially and economically viable. So, yeah, I always loved opportunities to go in there and look around and sit on the couch and everything. So I wonder if that could be a piece of this retreat center. Again, Esalen they've got a few hundred people at a time there who are staying multiple days at a time. So the bookstore potentially makes more sense there, depending on what might end up ultimately happening at Canoas. But that was something that I really appreciated there, and I imagine Carolyn might be interested in talking with you all and sharing her experience of the bookstore and of the Esalen as a whole as well. So I could reach out to her if that's of any interest.
Definitely, yeah.
All right. Well, Esalen has 50 years of experience, so the property is one of the most beautiful pieces of property. So they had a lot going for them. And we were talking about, we do know David Price, whose dad helped start it, that they had a big advantage, back in the 60s when they started it. This was a movement, all the psychologists, and so they all kind of came together, and you had a community before you even started. So it's quite unique. I wish we had that.
Yeah, it is quite unique. Yeah, I agree.
Well, okay, well, I want to keep us on time too. We're almost at that. And so Wes, we did want to talk to you about doing that assessment. Maybe we can just email you, or if you send an invoice or something. I think Charles was good with doing that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll follow up with an email to you.
Okay. So, okay, well, we're at about the time.
I do actually have a question for Wes then, if you're doing that. So we've contacted a horticulturist who I was going to call to let him know when Edwin's going down there. And he's had 40 years of experience in Santa Barbara. He used to actually work for the city, and he's semi-retired now, but he was agreeable to come evaluate and map it out. And I was just wondering if it would be helpful for the two of you to coordinate that or meet at the same time, or how do you think that would best happen?
So he's well, that sounds like a great connection. First off, when you say map it out, do you have any idea what he's intending there?
Horticulturist. He wasn't going to deal with permaculture. That was the first thing that I felt like was important, to have some really beautiful plan for the foliage and the flowers and making it as attractive as possible there, and even incorporate some art, but it wouldn't be going down into the soil or dealing with agriculture or anything like that.
Gotcha.
Although he's very knowledgeable, I'm sure, but he was strictly going to deal with the beautiful part of it. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
more of a focus on ornamental, or of the aesthetic piece. Yeah, well, I would welcome the opportunity to meet and talk with him. You know, we do our design, we structure our design off of what we call the scale of impermanence, but starting with the things that are hardest to change, but the longest lasting, and then moving towards the things that are easiest to change, but also most malleable. So we always start with water, foundational piece. So making sure water is patterned well makes everything else easier. And then we move to access, and then shelters, which the shelters here, the structures, those are largely already located, and there's some constraints there. And then we move to the plants and everything like that. So yeah, it sounds like there are some spaces there that are already, you know, gardens, the prayer garden and other spaces that there could be more of an immediate focus on livening those up and making those more beautiful. And then for the larger property, the 35 acres that I'm hearing are roughly descending down, we could really focus on patterning water properly on those, on earth shaping, potentially terraces, or swales, or different things like that, and then work with him on where are going to be more of the ornamental gardens. You know, for me, I love the idea of integrating everything all throughout the property, integrating food production with beauty, with herbs and medicinal and fire, you know, all of it. So I would love the chance to meet with him. He sounds like a great resource, and somebody who was keeping the city of Santa Barbara beautiful for 40 years is definitely a good person to have involved here.
Mhm. Are you evaluating also for the swimming pool part of it?
Yeah, so we look at water. We look at when we look at water, we look at passive water harvesting, which is basically things like earth shaping, utilizing earth shaping to slow water down, spread it out, and sink it into the soil. Active water harvesting in terms of tanks and collection systems, water systems for moderating climate and for recreation. So a swimming pool also often stacks multiple functions there, which is always the sign of a good element to have in the landscape. So we do, for a lot of our projects, we do the siting of the swimming pool to, you know, design for flow, climate moderation, all these other things. So that is something that we can do as part of our design work, and we would like to do. You know, we like to look at the whole site and really design for everything together, and work with folks like, you know, Peter in terms of the structures and everything like that. But if there's someone else that is you have as focused on the swimming pool and everything like that, then of course, you know, we can. I'm happy to meet the project wherever it's at.
Okay, great. I mean, I haven't seen the property personally, but everybody says that having it at where you're looking out on the ocean would be a perfectly great place to put it. So I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's the swimming pool at Esalen is definitely a hot spot, and it's out overlooking the ocean. And you know, there's a lot of awareness developing around natural swimming pools. It's something that we recommend in all of our designs.
Natural swimming pools.
Yeah, and they utilize biomass vegetation to provide filtration, and they're much lower cost to put in and much less energy intensive, and really beautiful. They kind of look more like natural features. So yeah, that would be something I'd love to talk with you all more about.
Okay, well, I do want to keep us on track, so we'll follow up on all this, and just want to thank you, everyone, for taking part in this circle. And this is an ongoing discussion, because we really want to work with the community, different groups, and really create a space there that we can connect with each other, and hold different types of workshops, etc. So I'll then say goodbye. We just end with our jazz hands, if you're like, yeah, good photograph for the end of. So okay, we'll talk to you all soon. So thanks again.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Recording.
Edwin.